was a 2-week cruise, and we were just going to see the fjords of Norway. And it seemed a little long for a 2-week cruise. So I said, Margaret, it seems a little long, doesn't it? 2 weeks to see the fjords of Norway. Now, I'm a person of faith, not trying to mess you up, relax. I'm a person of faith that God created the heavens and earth in 6 days. We're going to take 2 weeks to see the fjords of Norway. So we had a good conversation about it, and then we went on this amazing 2-week cruise. Anybody that doesn't believe in compromise has never been married very long, okay? It's just the way it works. But the deal was I would go on a 2-week cruise to see the fjords of Norway if she would let me write a book so I could get something done. And so she said yes, and I write with a legal pad, 4-color pen, table just like this, a high chair like this. And so we got a suite right in front. It was beautiful with all glass so we could see the fjords of Norway. And so I'm writing the book Failing Forward. And you know, I'm writing on a legal pad, you know, just writing it. And every once in a while the ship would kind of stop and the captain would say, to your left is a fjord in Norway. And I'd put my pen down and I'd look over there and I'd say, oh my. Wow. Isn't that something? It'd go a little longer. Captain said, to your right is a fjord. I'd put down my pen, I'd look at that fjord, and I'd say, another fjord. You know what, baby? That fjord looks just like that fjord. 2-week vacation's over. Book is written. 212 pages on a legal pad, wrapped in a rubber band, and Margaret's walking off the ship. She's holding on to it, because this is precious. She's holding on to the manuscript. And about halfway off the ship, she turned around and said, John, I love the book. I said, thanks. I said, what did you love about the book? She said, you're so honest, you're so open. You just talk about your failures. The reader is going to be so encouraged, see, that you have messed up and yet you're successful. It's just a wonderful book. She said, there's only one problem. I said, what's the problem? She said, honestly, John, you didn't get all your failures in the book. She said, I see a series. Failure 101, 201, 301. She said, it's in you. It's in you. You can get it out. You can get it out. And this one is really my 3rd book on failure. So I'm really good at this. I'm really good at this. So let me help you real quick. Let's go. I'm going to give you, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 ways to get a return on failure. Number 1 is you need to properly prepare your people for failure. You've got teams. And I think one of the errors that's made in direct marketing companies is they talk about success all the time, and they don't talk enough about their misses and their losses and their failures. And I think that we need to properly prepare the people on our team that, you know, this is a great company, and man, Plexus does a lot of good things, but not everybody likes Plexus, and not everybody buys the product, not everybody gets recruited, and we need to help them have a healthy expectation that this is a business, and it's a great business, but it's not an easy business, and you got to work at it. You know, I mean, you got to go uphill. It's not downhill. You don't coast to success. You intentionally move up to success. And the reason it's important to properly prepare your people is because they're going to mess up. And if all you talk about is how good you are and all your successes, when they mess up, they're going to say, oh my gosh, you know, my leader, they're really good, and I just kind of got bad. And the first thing they're going to want to do is they're going to say, well, you know, I don't think I'm cut out for this business. I don't think I'm very good at it. And they'll kind of want to pull away. And I just want to tell you that when I work with my teams, and I have 7 different companies, I talk about my failures all the time. I talk about my losses. I talk about the things I thought would work out, and they didn't work out. And why am I doing that? I'm doing that to help them understand that they're going to have some misses, and they're going to have some losses. And every day isn't going to be a great day. And I want them to know that so that when they don't have a great day, they don't kind of fall by the wayside and say, well, I guess I'm not cut out for this business. And by the way, when they leave your business and they leave your team, they don't come up and tell you, I'm not any good at this. They just fade away. They don't show up at the meetings. You kind of look around after a few weeks and say, where did Jack go? Where did Susie go? Well, they quit. They're not going to call you. They're not going to tell you. But they messed up. They didn't have the success that you talked about. You see, if you talk about success all the time, it can have a negative effect, to be honest with you. If you really want to help and impact people's lives, you got to talk to them about your losses and your misses and the things that sometimes didn't turn out, so that when it doesn't turn out for them, they'll say, hey, I'm just like my leader. There's an identification, there's a connection. A long time ago, I determined I don't want fans, I want friends. If I want fans, I'll tell you how good I am. If I want friends, I'll tell you some of the most difficult times in my life. That's what draws people, that's what closes the back. You see, in the beginning, when people join your team, the fear of failure is at its highest that it'll ever be, because they've never done it before, so they're insecure. So you want to properly prepare your people on the front end, because when they join the team, they're looking and say, oh my gosh, I don't even know if I can do this. Well, the very fact I'm not even sure I can do this keeps that fear pretty high. So you need to let them know in the beginning that it's not always going to be success. And the possibility of failure is higher in the beginning because they haven't practiced. How do you get good? You practice. And when you practice, you get better. But until you really practice a lot, you're not that hot. In fact, I have a teaching that says, you're never good the first time. I love it when people say, well, I've never done this before, so I'm really working on it because I want to really be good. I say, oh, relax. You won't be that good. Dear Lord, nobody's good the first time. Right. Not too hot the second either. You see, it takes practice to get good. And so in the beginning, they haven't practiced, so they're not going to be that good. In the beginning, they have a higher fear of failure. In the beginning, they'll have a wrong response to failure because they've never seen you have a good response to failure. Now, I'm just saying to you that you want to, on the front end, just properly prepare your people for failure. Okay, you got that one, okay? Let me give you the second one. What I'm giving you now is usually about a 4-hour lecture, and I've given it to you in about 48 minutes, but it's because you're smarter than the other companies I'm talking about. Dear Lord, I showed to a company the other day, and I said, this is going to be a 3-day seminar. So number 2, you've got to keep failure and success together. Now this is huge. Quit separating success and failure. I don't know why people do this, but they do it all the time. They say, succeed, don't fail. I mean, they'll look at it and say, do it right, don't do it wrong. And they put success and failure far apart. Success and failure aren't supposed to be far apart. They're never supposed to be far apart. They're supposed to be together because that's the way life is. You nor I don't have like a week of 7 consecutive days of pure success, and somebody says, how's your week been? Oh my gosh, it's been amazing. Haven't had a miss, everything's gone my way, it's huge. Went diamond in 8 days, oh my God. They don't need to join Plexus, they need to join a drug rehab program. You see, success and failure doesn't come in compartments, and you have success for a few days, then you have failure for 4 or 5 days, and you don't have, no. Every day you win some and you lose some. Isn't that right? And you got to keep them together. You got to keep them together. And why do you have to keep success and failure together? I'm going to tell you exactly why. If I keep them together, it balances me as a person. I don't get overexcited about my wins, and I don't get over depressed about my losses. When I keep them together, watch how this works. Let's say I'm on a roll and I am succeeding and I'm recruiting well and people are joining the team and boy, they're loving the product and all this stuff is happening. If I'm succeeding real well, if I keep failure right beside me, it's important because it'll teach me humility. There'll be a humility about my life that resonates with people. It'll help me realize that I'm really not as good as I think I am. Now, when I'm failing and I'm messing up and nothing's going right, I mean, you've had those days before, nothing's going right. I need to keep success right beside my failure because it gives me resiliency. It says, John, you're bad, but you're not that bad. I know you're not really hitting it well, but get back up, it's okay, get back up. This is so important to keep them together. For over 40 years, every month I do this. This is I'm a personal growth junkie. And I just am growing and learning and developing all the time. And for over 40 years, I have a learning lunch. And a learning lunch is where I take somebody out to lunch with me. I buy their lunch. They're bigger than me. They're better than me. They're smarter than me. They're more successful than me. They're more experienced than me. And I ask them 7 questions. I buy the lunch. And I ask them 7 questions I don't even eat. But one of the questions I ask them is, what is the most important lesson that you ever learned in your life? And whenever I ask them the question, what's the most important lesson you've ever learned in your life? Every time, I've been doing this for every month for over 40 years, hundreds of people, and every time I ask them, what's the most important lesson you ever learned in your life? They always talk about a loss, a failure, a hurt, adversity. It's always in the story because we learn more out of our adversity and difficulty than we do out of our success. That's why Bill Gates said, success is a lousy teacher. It makes people think they can't lose. How true. But when we keep success and failure together, they strengthen one another. They talk to one another. And when I'm not doing well, success says, this isn't a good day, John, but it's okay. You've had good days. And when I'm really winning and succeeding, failure's talking to my success. And failure's basically saying, you're not that good. Stay humble. And the reason we need to be humble is a person that has humility is teachable. And it's through a teachable spirit that you learn. I mean, I'm known as the #1 leadership expert in the world, which literally means nothing. My name's John. Your friend. And can I tell you something? My losses have taught me a lot more than my successes. And I've learned to love them. I've learned to embrace them. I've learned to embrace them. Let me give you a third one. You're so good. Oh, you're so good. You're so good. It'd been nice if somebody would come up and help me. It's all right. No. It's okay. I'll do it. It's okay. My name's Sean. I'm your friend. You're so good, I want to be a little closer to you. If you follow me, I'm just sitting there and I'm saying, why did they put me out on the back 40? That wore me out. Let me give you another reason why how you can get a return on failure. This one is huge. I promise you, you've never had anybody teach you this. You've never read anything about this. I've never read anything about this. I discovered it. This is going to help you so much. Look at the person beside you and say, this is going to help you so much. Tell them that, right? It's going to help you. Yes, it's going to help you. Here we go. Understand the difference between good misses and bad misses. They're both misses. But there's a big difference between a good miss and a bad miss. And most people never understand that. They just look at a miss and they say, well, it was a miss. I'm a failure. I guess I'm not cut out for this. I guess I'm not any good at it. There's a good miss and there's a bad miss. For example, and they're both misses, by the way. They're misses, they're not hits, okay? So they fall in the failure category, but there's a failure A and there's a failure B. And a good miss, even though you missed and you failed, you move forward. You advanced a little ground. You didn't get there, you didn't hit your goal, but you're closer. A good miss gets you closer, and a bad miss moves us backward. We back up. Let me give you another, oh my gosh. A good miss, when we have a good miss, what we do is we make adjustments. In other words, I said, oh, that didn't work. Oh my gosh, that was a stupid thing. Oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. So what I do now, I look at it and I learn from it and I adjust because of it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now watch it. In a good miss, I make adjustments. In a bad miss, I make excuses. It is impossible to go from excuses to success. Impossible. You can go from failure to success. But you can't go from excuses to success. I've never known a successful person that was always excusing all of their misses. Max Dupree says the first responsibility of any leader is to define reality. And reality says I missed. But reality also tells me that when I miss, I can either adjust or excuse. And by the way, your best excuse is your worst excuse because you believe it. See, if it's a bad excuse, everybody looks at you and says, oh, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's so stupid. But when it's a good excuse, they say, oh, that makes sense. Oh, of course, that's why you didn't get up there. That's why you haven't been moving your company and your people and your organization. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. It doesn't make sense at all. It's an excuse. A good miss is adjustments, and a bad miss is excuses. So I'm going to read something to you. I love this. I've had this with me for many, many years. It'll take me about 2 minutes to read it to you, but this will define a good miss and a bad miss better than I ever could if I taught for 2 hours. It's Portia Nelson's autobiography in 5 short chapters. You just sit back now and I'll read it to you. And after each chapter is like a sentence or two, so it's not long. After each chapter, ask yourself, was that a good miss or was that a bad miss? Because you've got to know the difference between the two. So here we go. Chapter 1. I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I'm lost. I'm helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Now, is that a good miss? Or is that a bad miss? How many of you think it's a good miss? Raise your hand. How many of you think it's a bad miss? Raise your hand. How many of you don't think? You don't have a clue. It's okay, it's okay. We're just learning this. You've never had anybody teach you about a good miss and a bad miss, but in about a minute and a half, you're going to get it. You're going to understand what a good miss and a bad miss is. Now, let me just say this. I don't know whether it's a good miss or a bad miss yet. It was a miss. Walked down the street, deep hole, fell in, lost. Wasn't my fault, took a long time. It was a miss. We got that down, but I don't know whether it was a good miss and a bad miss, and let me tell you why. When you have your first failure, you don't know whether it's a good miss or a bad miss, because a good miss or a bad miss is determined by your response to the failure. That was so stinking good that I just gave you. Oh my gosh, I wish I was not speaking so I could take notes myself. That was so good. Did you get it? You don't know after you fail whether it's a good miss or a bad miss, but you know soon because your response to the miss determines whether it was a good one or a bad one. So in chapter 1, we're not sure. Let's go to chapter 2. Now, I'm not going to talk this much after each chapter now. Now that you understand it, you just kind of in your mind kind of figure it out. Chapter 2, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see that it is there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5. I walk down another street. I've already given you 3 ways to get a return on your failure. Let's go to number 4. Embrace hard. Embrace hard. Scott Peck wrote a book several years ago called The Road Less Traveled. If you've not read it, you need to buy it. It's a classic book. And when you open up the first page, the first paragraph of this book, The Road Less Traveled, Scott Peck says his first 3 words are, life is hard. It's hard. We live in a culture that thinks life should be easy. We live in a culture that thinks that returns should be quick. But it's a disillusioned, dysfunctional culture. Life is hard.
That's the way it is. It's all uphill.
Everything worthwhile
It's uphill.
is uphill. Everything. It's all uphill. It's all uphill. You just clapped when you found out Margaret and I have been married for 54 years. It's uphill. It's not easy. Marriage isn't easy. Building a business isn't easy. Come on, talk to me.
Right.
Every dream you have, every worthwhile thing that you want to embrace and be a part of your life, it's all uphill. It's uphill.
Amen.
And to go uphill is hard. And you have to be intentional in going uphill. You don't accidentally go uphill. You've never read a book entitled Accidental Accomplishments. If somebody's successful and they're on the top of the mountain, and somebody says, how did you get to the top of the mountain? You've never heard a successful person, when you said, how did you get on top of the mountain, look at you and look at the mountain and say, oh my gosh. I have no idea. Honest to God, I just woke up. Here I am. This is amazing. It's all uphill. I know Plexus is a terrific company, but it's uphill all the way. It's uphill. Those people that are diamonds, they do all uphill. It's all uphill. It's all uphill. It's not like some uphill, some downhill. No, it's uphill. And here's the problem. Here's the problem. Watch this. Here's the problem. I'm just an old man losing his balance. Here's the problem. We have uphill hopes, but we have downhill habits. You can't go uphill with downhill habits. God can't even help you do that. And one of the downhill habits people have is that it should be easy. That there are shortcuts. that certainly there's a way to get around it so I don't have to quite work as hard as somebody else, and certainly I can go higher quicker than I ever. These shortcuts, we've got to embrace hard, huge. No one ever drifted to a desired location. If you're drifting, you're a product of whatever got you there. So I have people come up to me all the time. I remember recently a young man came up to me and he watched me. I'm speaking to about 3,000 people all day on the subject of leadership, and the people were going crazy. We were having a lot of fun, and we were learning, and we were laughing and enjoying one another. And he came up to me toward the end of the day when I was signing books, and he said, "I decided I want to do what you do." I said, "That's good. That's good." Victor told you I'd sold 25 million books. That's not true. It's 36 million. Woo! Come on, Victor, get your stats right. Can I say something? It's uphill all the way.
Right.
I've written 88 books. I had a lady come to me the other day and say, "You've written more books than I've read." How did you write so many books? One word at a time. There's no secret here. So the kid comes up and says, "I would like to do what you do." I said, "Well, thank you, that's nice." I said, "Can I ask you a question?" He said, "Sure." I said, "Would you like to do what I did?"
Right.
So you can do what I do. Woo! Of course you want to do what I do. When I'm done here, I'll get on my plane and I'll fly to Costa Rica and I'll speak there this evening. Of course you want to do what I do. I'm the number one nonfiction author in the world. Of course you want to do it. I'd like to do what you do. Of course you want to do what I do. The question is, would you like to do what I did? You look at the diamond and say, "Oh, I'd like to do, I want to go diamond, go diamond, go diamond, diamond." I'd like to do what you do. Of course you'd like to do what they do. They do diamond.
Right.
It's an IQ test. Would you like to do what they did? See, the problem is that the do, everybody wants to do the do, but nobody wants to do the did. And the did is what enables you to do the do. And if you don't do the did, you don't do the do. In fact, if you don't do the did, you're indeed do-do. Everything worthwhile. It's uphill. Embrace hard. Oh gosh, you're so good. You are so good.
Woo!
Number five. Number five. I don't know if I have time for this one.
Yeah, you do!
Well, it's okay. They have a clock.
Yeah.
And that thing will not stop. I remember the last time I was here, they had a clock. In my contract, next time, no clock.
Woo!
We just do it all day together. You know what I mean? I just pour into you and you just get your life changed.
Yeah!
So, I got time for maybe one more, maybe two.
Woo!
Here's what I want to give you here. Okay, this is number, I don't know what it is now. I'm moving. Number five. It's number five. That's what I thought. Number five. You need to develop a process to get a return on failure. In other words, you can develop a process or a strategy to make sure that you maximize your losses in life. And this is so important. I really, in fact, I definitely want to get this to you before I stop, because this is really going to help you. Okay, so here we go. Here's how this works. People ask me all the time. We have the largest coaching company in the world. We have 50,000 coaches in 172 countries in the world. And We're only 11 years old. People say, how did you build a coaching company so quickly? Well, we have a process. And this process will help you in your business. This process, I mean, when I give it to people, they look at it and say, really? Yes, really, this will work. We do this in all of our companies, and it works. There's a 5-stage or 5-step process, okay? And we call it our cycle to success, okay? It's not a journey to success. You can take a journey and pass something and never come back. This is a cycle. So what I'm going to give you, the 5 things I'm going to give you are continually repeated. Here we go. This is the cycle to success. Here's what we do. The first thing we do in our cycle is we test. We test all the time. There's never a week in our company that we don't try something we've never tried before. Now, when you test a lot, you automatically go to the second part of the cycle. If you test a lot, guess what you do? You fail a lot. So with the testing comes a lot of failing. So we test more than other companies. That's why we're successful. And we fail more than other companies. That's why we're successful. We're experts in failing. We have a lot of misses. We have a lot of losses. We test a lot and we fail a lot. If you test 10 times, you may fail 7 or 8. But if you test 100 times, you'll fail 70 or 80. So we test a lot and we fail a lot. Now, why are we out there testing? Well, we're out there testing because we're trying to discover things that we have never done that could really help us be successful. And so, but in the testing, we have the failing. And what's the value? What's the value of failing? The value of failure is learning, which is the 3rd stage. We learn a lot. We test a lot. We fail a lot. And we learn a lot. And when I say we learn a lot more than other people. And the reason we learn fast, because we test fast and we fail fast. So while other people are kind of saying, I wonder if that would work or not, they can just come to us, we can tell them. Because we're already out there. We're testing a lot, we're failing a lot, and we're learning a lot. See, so learning is the fruit of failure. By the way, when you fail, we're talking about how to get a return on failure. When you fail, you have 2 responses. Most people, when they fail, they leave that failure. They get rid of it. They say, oh my gosh, I didn't even do that. And they leave the scene. You know what I'm saying? They leave the scene. Oh my, I got to get away from that failure. Oh, wasn't me. And off we go. Now, if you leave your failure, you'll repeat it. That repetition of failure is because a person never learned. You can leave it or learn from it. If you leave it, you repeat it. If you learn it, you're going to fail some more, but you won't repeat that one. So we test, we fail, we learn. And what's the value and the fruit of learning? The value and the fruit of learning is improvement. We improve a lot. We don't learn just because we want to know something. We learn so we can do something. We can do something different. We can do something better. So there's improvement. There's action with our learning. So the fruit of learning is improving. And the fruit of failure is learning. And the fruit of testing is failure. So you can see how this is. So we test and we fail, we learn and we improve, and then we get to the 5th stage, we re-enter. We get right back in. And we do this all very quickly. We test, fail, learn, improve, re-enter. Test, fail, learn, improve, re-enter. Test, fail, learn, improve, re-enter. And we continually do that process. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to look up at me for a moment, because I don't want you to miss what happens, because here's the reason we do the cycle of success all the time. So just take a moment and just watch me here, because this is what we do all the time. It's a cycle. We test, fail, learn, improve, re-enter. 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 We cycle ourselves to the top. And we're always doing that, because with every improvement, once you get better, when you re-enter, you're at a different level. We love resiliency in America. We love the person that's never down. They're either up or getting up. We love the person we just say, oh, don't you admire them? Look at them. They're in this business, and My gosh, they keep hitting their head on that ceiling, but I'm telling you, they just get right back up there, never down. They're always up for good stuff. That's a resilient person. I love the spirit of that person. I want to be just like that person. You don't want to be just like this person, because what I'm showing you right now is a very stupid person. If you keep hitting your head, stay down.
Ah.
Take a pill. Relax. You don't re-enter until you improve. You see, when we re-enter, but nothing has changed in a positive way to us, we don't get better, we just get headaches. That's the cycle of success. I'll give you one more, because I got 3 minutes and 17 seconds. I thought maybe if I would hint that the clock could stop, that the clock could stop, but it's going to take a greater leader than me to do that. Let me give you one. This is so good. Okay, yeah. The last one I want to give you is encourage others with your failures. Encourage others with your failures. This is so important. When I started, I talked about preparing people for failure. When you get your group together, you want to talk about how they can live a successful life. But you want to talk about your misses. You want to talk about your losses. You want them to be able to connect with you, touch you, identify with who you are. But you want to encourage people. Again, if I just found if I want to impress you, I'll talk about my success. But if I want to impact you, I'll talk about my failures. I had a fellow come up to me at a conference, and he said, "I wish I could have heard you 20 years ago." And I said, "No, you don't." And he looked at me and said, "No." He said, I wish I could have heard you 20 years ago. And I said, "I heard you." "No, you don't." And he said, "I'm confused." He said, "Really? If I could have heard you 20 years ago, it'd help me so much." I said, you don't understand. If you would have heard me 20 years ago, you wouldn't have heard what you heard today.
Right.
Do you think I came out of my mother's womb with the 21 irrefutable laws? I just wrote a book. It was number 3 all across the country for the last month. It's called The 16 Laws of Communication. You want to get that book. If you don't have that book, just don't listen to nothing I say. Just absolutely 16 Laws of Communication, because the most important gift that you can have in this business is the ability to communicate, because you're communicating vision, you're communicating direction, you're communicating team, you are communicating all that. Warren Buffett, the great financial guru, said the most important gift that you can have, the most important skill that you can develop is the development of communication. And I've been a communicator for a long time, and I finally put together the 16 laws of communication. I wish I had time to give you a couple of those laws this morning, but here's what I want you to understand. When I started off as a communicator, I wasn't any good. I'm not trying to be modest. I wasn't any good. In fact, I was engaged to Margaret. And when she heard me speak the first time, she said, "I love you." I said, "How'd I do?" She said, I love you, John." I said, "Thank you, baby. Thank you." How was I? "Oh, I really love you." It was that third "I love you" when I realized I wasn't any good. And I wasn't any good. In fact, you know what? If I had a genie wish, if you got a genie and it really pops out, you get a wish. Do you know my genie wish would be? This is so true. My wish would be very simple. If I could have a genie wish, I just wish you could see me when I started, because I wasn't good. You see, you're seeing me after doing leadership for 50 years. You're seeing the end product. You ought to have seen the beginning. If you would have seen me in the beginning, you would all be so greatly encouraged. You would. You'd look and say, oh my gosh, he's terrible. He's not any good. That's why I go around encouraging people. You don't always hit it. You're going to have losses. You're going to have failures. I still have them. I still have misses, but it's okay. It's okay because now I keep them together and I get a return out. And what I wish for every one of you today is for you to take this teaching, go over it again and again, and begin to get a return out of your failures. I will promise you, it'll make you a better person. It'll make you a better member of this company, and it'll take you to places where you just wouldn't imagine. And someday you'll look at people and say, I wasn't very good in the beginning, but now look where I am. And remember this, my name is John. I'm your friend.